Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is Vault Assault. Vault Assault is a 2 to 4 player game in which each person is going to take on the role of being a cop or a robber, and both during the same game. It isn't like you're just always going to be a cop or always be a robber. You get to take both roles. And you're each going to take a turn trying to be the best cop you can be and also being the best robber you can be. It is a real-time dice rolling game, meaning the dice are going to be rolled by everybody at the table at the same time. Everybody kind of going crazy, rolling the dice. And then you're going to, as you're rolling dice, you're going to see what the dice come up with, and then you're going to save certain dice trying to achieve certain goals and get in certain dice faces to show up and be successful. After you play a certain number of turns, whoever scores the most money, that's the points, like whoever steals the most money will be the winner of the game. So let me show you how Vault Assault is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you a little bit more. Alright, this is Vault Assault, and before I start showing you how to play the game, just a reminder, this is a prototype that I was sent, so what you see in front of you may or may not be representative of what the final game is going to look like. Alright, so I am playing it as we're playing like a 2 versus 2 game. This is how I played most of it. Basically, there's 2 teams, and whoever gets the most money at the end of the game after a couple of rounds will determine who wins. You each take turns being the cops or the robbers. And depending upon what you're trying to do, which side you're on, you're going to have different goals when you're playing. Alright, so to begin with, you determine who's going to be the good guys and bad guys, if you will. And then the cops, they're going to set up their dice in something like this. And this might be tough to kind of see because, but you can see this is a die pack explosion, these are alarms, and this is a diamond. So they set up their row of 5 dice like that. And then, secretively, the other players, the robbers, can't see those. And then the robbers set up 5 dice like this that shows these different wires that have to be crossed. So you block this with like a hand or a book or whatever you're going to use to block this area. And then the robbers, they pick one die and they point to the die. They say, okay, we're going to cut this wire, we're going to cut that wire, and whatever. So one of 3 things happens. If the robber, as soon as they find the trap, the die pack explosion, or the diamond, that ends it. Because they either get the trap, which is bad for the robbers, or they get the diamond, which is good for the robbers. Or they can, if they get these alarms, they can continue to push the lock. So if they did that one, they can say, okay, we're going to keep going. If they did that one, okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to do that one, we can keep going. And then eventually they'd pick one, right, that would cause the end of it. Now, if they get the die pack, what happens is that one of the robber's dice has to begin on, like, basically this hostage tile, which normally has a power that they can use, but in this case, what it is, it's just that die is going to be set aside at the beginning of their round when they start rolling their dice, and we'll kind of explain that here in just a couple seconds here. But if they get the diamond, it's good because they get one of these cool diamond tiles, and these are worth $40,000, and they can't be stolen from you. You just keep those and set them aside from the rest of what you've made. If you get these wires and you keep picking the wire ones, and obviously you can pick up to 3 because there's 5 and there's 3 wires. The cops, for each wire, they get to set up. Basically, they're going to get they're going to be set up better at the beginning of their round because the robbers just get to roll their dice and say, okay, what are we going to go for? Okay, we're going for money, and they're going to roll for the money on their die rolls. But the cop players, or player if you're playing 1 versus 1, has to go in a set like a set mosaic, if you will, that they have to create using their dice. And I'll show that to you here in just a few moments. So, but for each one of these that starts off, that they cut, that's a wire, that's not the right one, setting off an alarm, the cops get to set aside one of their dice as part of that mosaic at the very beginning. So they kind of get a little jump start, if you will. So anyway, so that's what happens. You're going to go ahead and do that. And then everybody's going to take their dice. So this is the cop player, will take that. So, and then it's 2 players, so these players are going to have, those are going to have that, and then the robbers are going to be over here like so. So we have our 4 players, and each person has their dice. So not only is this game played simultaneously, so you're going to be rolling the dice, rolling the dice quickly, right? Trying to get, good results on the die rolls, but you're also trying to you're trying to get like you're trying to communicate with each other and trying to let each other know what you're shooting for and what you're trying to create and what you're trying to do. And so admittedly, like as I said, the cops have to go through these 4 sets. And I'll show you just instead of the dice, and so show you can see. So you have like a fuel up, so they have to get the 4 parts of the donut, like here's a part of the donut right there. So they get their 4 parts of the donut, and then they yell at a donut flavor, glazed, right? And so the next one, they're going to have to go to the dispatch. And so they've got to get these 4 pieces of the steering wheel. So here's like a steering wheel result, like so. And then as soon as they get 4 of those, they yell a street name, 34th Street. And then now they're going to have to go for the police officers. So you can see like that, and then you yell surrounded, and then if you can get all 4 of these, you yell arrested, and you try to get that before the robbers say escaped. Now mind you, like I said, you're going to be doing this back and forth, and each of you are rolling as fast and as quickly as you possibly can. Now you can, however, let me find the die pack, so you can get this die pack result, and you can do this once for each phase. So you can get a die pack result here, and here, and here, and here, but you can only do it once. You can't just sit there and get die packs like multiple ones on the dispatch or what have you. And when you get the die pack result, you get to take 2, like as these guys, and I'll show you what the robbers do here in a moment. But what the robbers are going to do is that as they succeed, they're going to take these tiles and they're going to flip them face over. When they succeed, they're going to steal things. So this is like 5K, and they put it over on one of these getaway cars. Notice how you have getaway cars over here. That's because you'll be playing as the cops will play as the robbers next, and so on and so forth, back and forth. But so here you have, so they have that 5K, meaning they've stolen $5,000. But if you can get the die pack result, you can steal that money and move it over to, you can steal 2 tiles and you can move them over to the other getaway cars. If you catch somebody, if you actually get the arrest result, this is right here, that means you get to actually flip over one of those particular tiles, and then you get to take all the tiles that would be on that and distribute them over on your side. So obviously that's a good deal because it lowers the number of places they can put their loot, and also they get to you get to take a bunch of the stuff that they've earned. So that's how that goes. Now the robbers have a totally different thing they're going to do. The robbers actually, in a lot of ways, they have to be more communicative on your turn. And don't worry, like I said, both sides have to do it. But you have to actually decide what you're going for. And the results on the dice, like, it isn't a mosaic anymore. So, like, this is a steal result. If the 2 players have a total of 4 of these, it allows them to steal a vault tile from any player's getaway car and add it to theirs. If you get, I can't really find a loot die here because this is what mostly, alright, so here's the vault, as you can see right there. So if you get 4 of these, you get to take 2 vault tiles from here, turn them face up, and place them in any of your getaway cars, and you can just add them on there. Now, I should mention that when you steal tiles from each other, you have to steal the top tile. That's why these things are face up. And so it's important to note that that is those things that you have to do. And you can, like, here, let me just, like, let's say, like, if you remove this one, and then there's a 5K, you can take that one. You as you reveal it, you can pick the other one. But remember, this is all real time. It isn't like you say, stop! I need to look and see which ones I'm going to take. You're going to grab the tiles as quickly as you can. You can't take multiple at the same time. You got to take them one at a time. So I mentioned the hostage tile. You remember, like I said, you started with one of those. Now the hostage tile, what it does is that when you yell, when they get this, one of the players, if you can get these, you set this die aside, like put it aside, and you yell hostage. And when that happens, is that if the cops have been building up towards a mosaic, like let's say they got 3 of their 4 donuts or whatever set up, and they want to put it together, they have to pick up all their dice and restart. So, but and that's a good thing, obviously, but you have to actually set aside the hostage die. Of course, I gotta find it. You have to set that die aside, and you can't use it. Now, however, to get it back though, if you can get 2 of these walkie-talkie things, these are the backups. And then you yell backup, and then you can take if you get 2 of these, you can pick up the hostage die that have been set aside and put them back in your hand. And that includes the die that if you got the die pack at the very beginning, that includes that die, putting it back into your hand at that point as well. And finally, the last thing is this escape. And you got to get 5 of these, and when you yell escape, that means you've gotten away before the cops yell arrested. So basically, the escape or arrested triggers the end of the round. And so what happens is, and this is tough to do with just me, but the robbers are going to be going like this over and over, like, shooting, and there's no, like, if you roll a certain die, you're stuck using that sort of die kind of thing. You get to keep on going and going and going, and, like, obviously at the very beginning, you're like, okay, set aside, like, both players are rolling, and they're like, set aside your vaults, right? And so both people are like, we gotta get 4 of those, we got 3, and they're going, so bam, they got them. So now they're gonna go, okay, take 2 tiles. And then, like, and I should explain that tile, and I saw that one here, I'll explain that in a moment. But, like, so you take 2 tiles, 5K, and 5K, so you put them, and you start setting them aside. And you keep going like this, and the whole time, the robbers are paying attention to what the cops are doing, and seeing how close they're getting to being that point when they're arresting, and how far they can push their luck before, they're going to get arrested. Now, so, it might seem, because they don't have a set rule, a set goal to go through, the robbers have a little bit of an edge. But actually, what happens is there's a lot of times, there's security measures like these, which I just pulled over, that have certain things that happen. So, like, if you pick up this tile, and you discard this immediately, it doesn't go in your getaway, you pick this tile, this is, like, you have to roll now with your opposite hand for the rest of the turn. So if you're right-handed, you gotta go left or left-right. So it's not as easy. Now this one is kind of diabolical. This one has... everybody, you have to run. Everybody has to run around the table, around the table once, and then you can go back to rolling the dice. So it's one of those weird things where it's like all of a sudden very animated moment, and the whole time the cops get to keep rolling. And there's a couple other ones as well. If you draw like a die pack, you have to return the chopped chit for one of the cars to the bank, and then if you get the handcuffs, it's like you got to roll with your wrists together until the end of the turn. Now I'm going to try to find one last type of vault tile, if I can find them. Of course, no, I'm not going to. And it isn't just, like there's 20Ks, see? So you can get lucky and get things. So here is half of a diamond. Now there's another chit out there that will have the other half. If you have both sides, not once, you have to have both sides, not 2 of like this side of the diamond. At the end of the game, if you have both sides, then you're able to take another one of these 40,000 diamonds and put it into your stash as well. So there's that as well as when you're drawing it. And, since they're face up, but you're stacking them as you place them, like having a memory possibly as people are adding those and watching and knowing where the good ones are can be very helpful when you're going to stealing stuff or when you actually get an arrest. So it's a game where you're paying a lot of attention to the dice as you're rolling your own dice and picking them up and rolling them over and over again. There's a lot of stuff as far as that goes, but also being kind of aware of what the other players are doing and where they're putting their loot is really important as well. It all kind of adds to a kind of crazy experience that no lack of laughing and having fun as far as when it came to my family, of course, when you were doing this. So just... I hope you have a good idea of how it's played. Like I said, not actually seeing a game in action, it loses a little bit. But I would say on the Kickstarter page for the game, there are a couple of fantastic videos of actual live games being played, and I'd strongly suggest going and checking those out because it'll kind of show you just how fast and frenetic the gameplay is. But along with fast and frenetic, let's go with the alliteration and say fun as well. But let me talk more about the game in my final thoughts, and I'll do that right now. Thank you very much for learning how to play Vault Assault. As I said, my cool little alliteration, it is fast, it is frantic, it is frenetic, and most of all, it's fun. I actually have not had a very good relationship with real-time dice games. I always feel like, when I'm so caught up in rolling the dice, I'm so worried about getting my result that, like, I end up picking up the dice that I really wanted to. And you trust me, when you play this game, what's going to happen is you're going to be like this, like, no, No, that was what I needed. Oh, you know, and that's funny, right? I mean, that's hilarious. And so that's why I like this game, I guess. I really liked the player interaction and us going crazy while we played the game. And as much as you will tell yourself, it's like, you know, we need donuts, we need donuts, we need donuts. Why did you pick up a donut? You know, it is more about the experience of the game, in my mind, than actually like winning, so to speak. Now, that's not to say that, you know, if you are, you know, a competitive player and you want that win, this game has a lot of different weird strategies going on as well. I mean, it's more of understanding the pace of what is happening at the table and recognizing and keeping like one ear kind of hearing what the other people are doing, what they're going for, because remember, you got to communicate openly. It isn't like you're like, you know, secretly hiding behind a door and trying to do what you're trying to do. You are, as the robbers, definitely, it's one of those things like, should we keep going? Should we keep going? Where are they? What are they on? It's like, okay, well, they're, you know, they still haven't gotten, they're on the street name. Okay, good. Okay, we can still go for some more money. You know, it's knowing that fine line where you cut and run and when you keep going. And plus, since this is kind of like a push your luck type of game, I like the fact that the police can still steal the money. So, I mean, it isn't one of those things where it's like, you aren't, if the other team has like gotten way ahead and they're like got one more robber turn, you're like, well, they're gonna win. No, I mean, as the cops, then you just have the mentality of, we are going to go after those die packs. We got to steal those tokens from them. Or do you say, you know what, we forget the die packs. We're just gonna go and we're gonna tear butt towards like getting through those dice as quickly as possible so we can arrest somebody. And so and then the other team will react to that strategy and you react to their strategy. And so it actually has a few layers there that, you know, I normally wouldn't expect to find in a game like this. So you know, ultimately, what matters to me, as I've said in many videos and many reviews that I've done, is the game fun? Yes, it is fun, and one of the contributing factors to this game being fun is the high level interaction between everybody at the table, the cheers and the groans, and everybody having a blast. And you know, and I even like the little mini game of the hidden information. You know, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're rolling dice, you're going crazy, you're rolling the dice, and then okay, everybody just take a breather for like 5 minutes, restart, hide the dice, figure out what you're going to do, and then go crazy again. And I like that. I like that it has that kind of the dichotomy of those two sections. So there you go. If you like dice games, I think you're really going to like this one. I invite you to go ahead and check that out. If you have any questions about the game, ask away. I'll be happy to try to answer those. As always, thank you very much for your time, and you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right.